As if things couldn't get much uglier, reports now claim that Jim Jones lost all control after seeing the tape and actually attacked Camron in a violent confrontation in the studio. Jim's mood seemed strange as soon as he walked into the room. According to witnesses, his longtime partner, Chrissy Lampkin, is seen enjoying a private moment with Camron in the shocking video that went viral. This hazy but indisputable video has gone viral online, showing the two coming close, talking, and joking in a dimly lit VIP section. Someone's phone captured the entire altercation as he crashed over chairs and swung his fists. On social media, that video clip is currently generating heated discussions and going viral as well. Was Chrissy being disloyal? Did Camron go too far? Or is there more to this story than meets the eye? Emotions are running high, loyalties are being tested, and the streets of Harlem have never looked colder. Watch out, because this scandal is far from over. It all started when chaos erupted online on a calm Sunday evening. A blurry video clip quickly gained media attention and started to spread across all platforms. In the grandma footage, Chrissy Lampkin was sitting in what appeared to be a dimly lit parlor, considerably too close to Camron. The familiarity of the body language immediately sparked concern. Chrissy stepped forward with her hand and gently stroked Cam's knee while Camron said something in her ear, making her smile in a way that fans hadn't seen in years. For a brief moment, her hand on his chest was caught on camera, but it was enough to light the match that would ignite the entire thing. Jen Jones was at home when he first watched the video, and the internet went bananas, according to others. Close to him, he stopped in the middle of the scroll, looked at the screen in shock, said it 3 times, and then tossed his phone across the room. Without saying a word, he just got up and departed the house, becoming missing for hours. His face looked as if he hadn't slept, and his eyes were red. In addition to being betrayed, it was embarrassing to watch the woman he had been faithful to for so long become cozy with one of his closest friends and frequent enemies. To make matters worse, this was no isolated instance. They caught a rumor on camera. Jim could not ignore the voices from the streets this time. The internet went crazy overnight as fans shared their comments on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Hashtags like #JimScam and #ChrissyExposed were trending in all the big cities. Videos of Chrissy and Cam exchanging strangely amorous vibes on reality shows started to surface again. All of a sudden, Cam's seemingly harmless comments seemed like clues that everyone had missed. People were interpreting body language from a 10-year-old video, making assumptions and connecting seemingly unconnected facts, but the storyline was already established. While fans speculated that Jim was spiraling, insiders said he spent the entire night pacing his house and repeatedly watching the video to try to figure out what went wrong. Nancy, always protective of her son, didn't hesitate. "You need to confront this head-on, baby. Don't let them play you like this," he reportedly broke down when he contacted his mother, Nancy Jones, who was apparently unhappy at the moment. Jim Jones was completely quiet on the internet the following day. His supporters began to worry that he was planning something drastic. Backstage, Jim was attempting to contact Camron. He texted and called but got no response. Camron's silence was deafening, as if he were acting as though nothing had happened. Jim's close friend says that at first he wasn't even with Chrissy. All he wanted was answers from Cam, such as, "Why would you do this to me?" 2 days later, it all exploded again. Sent a picture of Camron's private direct chat, to which he replied, laughing off the situation, "I stole his girl to a fan." Within minutes of the image becoming viral, people began tagging Jim in a flurry of activity. But according to sources, this was no longer going to be a conversation. When Jim Jones saw it, he apparently lost it, grabbed his car keys, called some of his guys and said, "We need to talk face to face." Jim then drove directly to a studio in Harlem. Jim pulled up to the studio, pushed open the door, and walked right in without knocking. In the middle of a session, Camron was joking with several friends and had no idea what was going to happen. According to witnesses, Jim went straight up to Cam, struck him in the jaw without saying anything, and then turned to leave. There was chaos after the room went silent. "Yo, what?" Cam said, staggering back in shock. Cam tried to shove him away, but Jim punched him again. They were separated by security, but the harm had already been done. He grabbed Cam by the shirt and said, "What the hell is wrong with you?" But Jim wasn't done. "Do you think this is funny?" He only stopped yelling when two of Cam's sons pulled him off. "I trusted you, I brought you into my house, and this is how you repay me." Similar to how Chrissy's video went viral, the room captured a portion of the altercation on camera, and suddenly it was online. The battle between Jim and Cam was reenacted on all the screens, shocking the fans. Jim wasn't finished even after the struggle. Everyone agreed that the betrayal had gone further than anybody had anticipated and that the Dipset brotherhood was definitely over. But one guy noted it isn't a joke. A few hours later, he went live on Instagram. Camron was blamed by some, while Jim was accused of overreacting. His eyes were still angry, and his lips were slightly parted as he spoke. "Don't ever play with me like that. Loyalty over everything. I don't care if you've been my day one. If you cross me, it's done," stated the man. Fans responded with heart emojis and fire symbols, claiming he was telling the truth when he said, "Don't ever play with me like that. Loyalty over everything. I don't care if you've been my day one. If you cross me, it's done." However, Chrissy had said nothing, which further fueled speculation. What was she hiding, and why hadn't she denied anything? After the fight video went viral, more questions were raised about how long the fight had been going on and whether it was a one-time incident or something more severe. As the smoke cleared following the intense altercation between Camron and Jim Jones, the industry started to react. Shade Room, Baller Alert, captivated influencers, blogs, and media sites. After Hollywood Unlocked, everyone shared the battle videos and made predictions about what would occur next. Jim Jones had stopped trying to find the answers. It already made up his mind on this. How would Chrissy respond if she finally raised her voice? In all of this uncertainty, Chrissy's voice was the only one that stuck out. Because there was no post, no story, and no response, fans were beginning to turn against her. Many claimed that the video alone spoke louder than her silence. To make matters worse, Chrissy had disappeared from the spotlight of the public. Desired clarification, a confession, or at the very least, the denial. In an attempt to minimize the harm, Camron downplayed the entire incident as if it had been a straightforward misunderstanding in a video that he uploaded to his account the day after the confrontation, showing him and his crew grinning. "You will believe whatever you see on the internet," Kay said, smirking. "Come on, man. That's family. Isn't that deep?" However, his supporters didn't believe him because his face was covered in bruises. The comment sections were full of snake images and clown emojis, as many criticized him for breaking the sacred commandment of brotherhood, no matter how calm he tried to appear. Jim Jones could not control the narrative now that it was public knowledge, and there was no turning back. According to someone close to Chrissy, she was sinking behind closed doors and was totally overwhelmed by the criticism. Chrissy reportedly broke down in tears, locked herself in her apartment, and rejected calls from friends. The source claims that although she thought everything would remain private, she now feels like everyone is against her. She was terrified that all she had worked so hard to build with Jim was now irrevocably lost, in addition to the guilt. Despite having been with him through heartache and love, she felt different, as though it were the end. A second video was released just as things were getting out of control. This time it was taken from a new angle, and it was longer, clearer, and brighter. With Chrissy and Camron sitting near to each other, they were holding hands under the table and giggling like a couple. The internet erupted once more as the video concluded with Camron bending in and Chrissy whispering something into his ear, causing him to nod with a calm, self-assured smile. Instead of flirtation, it was now confirmation. Supporters were shocked. offended and furious. They really did make Jim look stupid. As the strain mounted, it was obvious that something had to give. When Jim Jones saw the second footage in the studio, he didn't even blink. He was characterized as numb by a close coworker, as if his heart had already been torn out. Jim said nothing, just nodded slowly, turned off his phone, and kept recording music. Even music couldn't conceal the storm that was building inside of him, even if it was clear that he was using the booth to bleed out the pain. But the lyrics were darker and more angry, with lines like "they stabbed me in the back and smiled while they did it." Mona Scott-Young, the producer of Love and Hip Hop, was in full crisis mode behind the scenes. She began phoning people to try to get raw footage, exclusive interviews, or whatever else she could to capitalize on the enthusiasm. She told her team that if they were breaking down, they would be caught on camera every second. A live reunion extravaganza that would introduce Jim, Chrissy, and Camron to the world while they watched. Ratings gold was considered, deals were made, and meetings were set up. Not everyone agreed with Chrissy's first refusal to sign off, since she felt embarrassed and used. Mona didn't want to confront Jim on national television, but she understood how to press the right button. Cam Ever, the showman, saw his opportunity and jumped at the chance. Let's clear the air. If people want drama, let's give it to them. After it was announced that all three would be performing, tickets for the final special sold out in a matter of hours. Chrissy hesitated for a second before responding. You want people to hear the truth, not just the gossip. On the day of the taping, there was a lot of excitement. The green rooms were divided, security was quadrupled, and emotions were high. Outside the studio, blowers were setting up interviews, and everyone wanted to see the explosion. Jim, on the other hand, was also getting ready behind the scenes. But his objectives were closure rather than redemption or ratings. He wanted to speak to them both directly and tell them everything he couldn't say with his fists or over the phone. In his words to his boss, "I'm walking in with pain, but I'm walking out with peace, whatever that looks like." The three of them sat down, across from each other under the bright studio lights, as the room went quiet and the cameras started rolling. The host greeted everyone and then hurriedly asked Jim what he wanted to say to Chrissy and Cam today. Jim looked at Chrissy, then at Cam, and his jaw tightened. "I trusted you all." Backstage, there was a lot of anxiety. When Chrissy arrived, she was wearing all black and had her eyes shielded by thick sunglasses. She seemed surprised yet determined. Cam arrived, joking with the team, acting as if nothing was wrong. Christy tried to reply, but he interrupted, saying, "I gave you my heart. I gave you my loyalty, and you gave me a slap in the face. Feelings don't get complicated between brothers and their girl. That isn't complicated. That's dirty." The audience gasped as Cam took the stage to explain. "Look, man, it wasn't like that. Just happened." The anxiety was palpable. Despite the host's best efforts to guide the conversation in a healing direction, the harm was evident. Like smoke from an endless fire, every glance, every silence, and every unsaid idea lingered in the atmosphere. It became clear as the show went on and each character gave their account of what happened that was more than just a failed love triangle. It was a collapse of trust, friendship, and family that could not be fixed by a single sit-down on TV. Jim Jones stared at the host, and her words sounded empty. In a desperate attempt to regain control, the presenter asked Camron to speak out just as the tension seemed to be about to explode. A slight smirk was starting to show on Camron's face as he sat back in his chair and asked, "Where do you stand in all of this? Your actions seem to have escalated things between Jim and Chrissy." He rubbed his eyes and said, "Nobody is escalating anything. It's all about perspective, man." Chrissy couldn't look him in the eyes because her eyes were filled with a mixture of hurt and betrayal as the audience, cameras, and millions of viewers at home anxiously awaited the next bombshell. "But this isn't just about sentiments, is it? You and Chrissy, Cam," the host went on. "Jim is accusing you of being disloyal, even though you two were really close. How do you think about that? Cameron's smirk faded a little as he leaned forward. I know that sometimes people grow apart, but you won't understand that I do. Things that may have existed in the past no longer exist. Emotions shift and things change. He paused and looked across at Chrissy. That's just life, man. With a pale face and a slightly shaking palm, she muttered, "This isn't just life, Cam. This is betrayal." Her voice was hoarse, and even Camron seemed to soften as she said, "You know that, right? What I had with Jim, was real. It wasn't just some fling. This was everything, and now I've destroyed it all for what? For what, Cam?" Her tone changed, and she said, "Look, I'm not saying it's easy, not saying it was right, but I'm saying it was inevitable. Jim said, I didn't want this to go down like this, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend I didn't see this coming." Jim's eyes hardened as he stood up suddenly, his chair scratching the floor, and the audience gasped as the studio lights started to flicker. "You didn't want this to go down like this, Cam. You wanted this. You wanted all of it, and you got it. Now look at us. Look at what you've done. You took my woman, my friend, and you turned it into a joke." Jim began to scream. "This isn't some reality show for you. You've ruined everything." Jim inhaled deeply and exhaled slowly. His fists clenched as though he was attempting to suppress his emotions. Chrissy gazed down at her hands as Jim's remarks weighed heavily on her. She was unable to look him in the eye. What had happened to them? How had they gone from being a couple in love to this devastating moment? She simply knew that it was her fault, and she had no answers. Despite the host's best efforts to calm things down, the damage was obvious. Is there any possibility of making amends? He clenched his hands and said, "I don't know," in a hushed tone. "I don't know if it can be fixed." What do you do when everything you value breaks down due to the most horrible betrayal from your partner and best friend? Is it ever going to be possible for you to trust them again? Chrissy had tears in her eyes. The crowd wasn't sure who to support, so she apologized in a tremulous voice, but it was too late. "Jim, please trust me. I didn't mean to offend you. I couldn't manage it, even though I thought I could. I should never have allowed it to reach this stage. It was an error." The host went silent for a while to allow the feelings between Jim and Chrissy to unfold. "I get it, man. I really do. But I'm not the one who needs to fix this," he said, addressing the audience as the cameras continued to roll. What we've witnessed today is a raw, unfiltered look into the lives of three people, caught in a storm of betrayal, pain, and broken trust, he said, calmly and firmly. "Figure it out, because this isn't my battle anymore. I'm out." The audience wondered if this would be the last time they saw them together on screen, or if they could somehow find a way to mend the broken pieces as Chrissy sat silently with her, hands folded tightly in her lap, and Jim stood a few feet away, his back to her, his eyes fixed on the floor. In the days that followed, social media exploded with reactions. Jim's cryptic social media posts fueled he was secretly plotting revenge. Chrissy stayed off social media, understanding the complex nature of relationships and feeling for both of them. One thing was certain, wasn't just a fight between friends, but a public breakdown that everyone was watching and everyone had an opinion on. As the fallout between Jen Jones and Camron intensified and the media frenzy surrounding the drama reached new heights, it was clear that the world was watching and that they couldn't turn away. The countdown to the next chapter of this drama was already underway. Would Jen confront Camron one last time? Would Chrissy make amends? And most importantly, would their friendships end? Or was there still hope for a reconciliation? It all started with a simple video, and Camron, who had always been known for his playful and sometimes unpredictable behavior, took a step that no one saw coming. He posted a cryptic message on his social media accounts that sent the internet into a frenzy. Normally a private person, Jim started to share his frustrations more openly. And his fans, who had been supporting him through all the turmoil, started to worry that this situation was beginning to spiral out of control. Fans were left wondering, what Camron was hinting at and what he meant when some old photos that showed Camron and Chrissy, much closer than anyone had previously believed, resurfaced online. These images weren't just pictures, though. They seemed to hint at a deeper connection that had been kept hidden from the public for years. The internet went crazy as people began to speculate about what might have happened behind the scenes. As the rumors spread, the situation became even more complicated. Some thought that Camron and Chrissy had been in a covert relationship for years, while others thought that Jim had just been caught off guard by something he wasn't prepared for. "I've spent years building my life with the people I trusted," Jen Jones said in a live video, his voice shaking with emotion. "And now it feels like everything is falling apart. Cam and Chrissy. Both." After weeks of watching the drama play out, Chrissy eventually broke her silence in a social media post. But her comments only appear to heighten the tension. "I never imagined that I'd be in this situation, but here I am." Chrissy had been silent for a long time, but the strain was growing. In the comment area, several fans expressed support, while others criticized Jim, questioning whether he was being too dramatic or emotional, particularly in front of the cameras. This is more than just a fight. It's about betrayal. "I don't have all the answers, but I've been through a lot. All I want is to find peace and go on," she wrote. "Sometimes life throws challenges your way that you never expected, and sometimes you find yourself in situations you never could have predicted." The ambiguity of her message only fueled speculation, as fans couldn't tell if she was genuinely sorry for her role in the mess or was trying to distance herself from the drama. The gap between her supporters and critics widened. But just when everyone believed the situation had reached a breaking point, Camron stoked it up once more with a mysterious video. Camron's remarks sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry. "You all think you know what's going on, but trust me, it's just the beginning." In the video, Camron was seen jokingly walking down a hallway saying, "Sometimes the people you think you can trust aren't who they appear to be, and sometimes it's too late to fix the damage." If Camron had simply uncovered more to the story than everyone knew, the internet would have been flooded with new theories, but no one could agree on what was truly happening. The tension was unbearable as fans waited to see what would happen next. Jim Jones and Cam were reportedly scheduled to meet face-to-face. Rumor had it that the much-anticipated confrontation will finally take place. The two men had been silent for a while, but now they were ready to face each other and work out their differences. Jim had already stated that he would not back down and was ready for responses. Camron, on the other hand, had been asserting his authority and his knowledge of things that the others did not. The press went into overdrive when it arrived. Cameras were positioned, reporters showed up, and onlookers eagerly awaited the two men's encounter. The question that everyone had was whether they could settle the dispute or if emotions would rise again. Chrissy, who had mostly remained mute in the background, was rumored to have been there as well, but her presence just served to fan the flames. There was no way to know what to expect, but one thing was certain: would be a historical moment. As the cameras rolled, it was clear that Jim and Camron were at odds. "I'm done," Jim said abruptly, his voice powerful yet impassioned. "I don't know what you've been playing at, but I'm not going to let you keep messing with me. I want answers now, and I'm done pretending everything is okay." The men stared at each other for a minute, the tension in the room evident as Jim Jones stood there holding an inexplicable expression and looking down at Camron, waiting. It was obvious that this would be a challenging conversation. But instead of responding right away, Camron seemed to be considering how to handle the situation. "Don't you think you've got everything figured out?" Finally, Camron's voice was low and serene. "Do you think I made every error?" "Jim, I'm only playing." There was utter silence for a minute as the unpredictable figure sagged back against the wall with his arms wrapped across his chest. Jim's comments compelled Camron to defend himself and explain the rift that had developed between them. Cameron's Words, you know this game better than anyone, but you've been blinded by your emotions. Chrissy, the video is everything. You're looking at it all wrong. Jim was incensed because he had been hoping for an apology that would mend the friendship that had lasted for years. But this was not the kind of response he had been hoping for. Jim took a step forward, clearly shocked. You went too far, Jim. Said you don't get it, do you? This is about trust, not some fucking game, Cam. We were meant to be brothers, but you've been keeping things from me. Chrissy, Camron said, his voice cracking slightly under the weight of treachery. What brought her into this predicament in the first place? What were you two doing behind? My back, all that covert stuff? Chrissy, you've been too focused on your feelings to deal with the solutions you're looking for? She is independent, so it's up to her to do what she wants to do. Don't be like you, though. You're acting like I'm the villain here, he said, his voice brimming with sarcasm. Perhaps you need to go back and look at what's been happening. Refusing to back down from Cameron's stinging comments, Jim clenched his fists and took another step forward. You're telling me that I'm too responsible for all of this? Jim added. I trusted you, Cam, his voice growing angry. You paid tribute to me in this way for everything we have been through together. By playing games and concealing secrets. Jim's distress was evident in his tone. Camron had always impressed him with his street smarts and tenacity. But now Cameron's response was cold, almost disdainful. I didn't do anything to you that you didn't already know deep down. Cameron's voice was low and mocking. You've been living in your little bubble thinking everything was perfect. But life doesn't work like that, Jim. You've been too busy to pretend that you've got everything out. But guess what? The reality hurts. The years of the relationship were weighing heavily on Jim, and it was oppressive. Jim's face froze as his anger mounted. This was about Cameron's betrayal of their friendship, not just Chrissy or the video. It always does, Jim. I'm going to let you walk away like this after everything we've been through, Jim stated in a shaky voice. To just accept this. Look, Jim, I'm not going to sit here and explain myself to you, Camron replied casually, shrugging as if disinterested in the topic. I'm here to tell you the truth, not to make things better. We've been through a lot, and if you're too blind to see it, that's on you. I didn't start this conflict, Jim. I'm done with this. Cam, you don't have the right to do this to my life, Cam. I believed in you. Jim stood thinking frantically. Was Camron really that heartless? Did he really not care about the damage he had caused? Jim's eyes furrowed as he took another step toward Camron, his fists clenched. Jim barked, You've lost your damn mind. This isn't about the truth. It's about you being the coward hiding behind your lies and your games. And now you're driving Chrissy into it. Maybe I've messed up, Jim, Camron whispered on his lips. The tension between them grew with every second of the delay. After giving Jim an unreadable look, Camron took a long breath and spoke again, this time with a slightly more earnest tone. You must realize that this is greater than us and all the sad drama, even though I may have made mistakes. I'm not requesting forgiveness or for you to forget everything, though. Jim whispered, his voice heavy with hurt. You've changed, man. And he wasn't sure if he could forgive him for that. Jim's heart pounded in his chest, feeling the weight of Camron's words, but it didn't make the situation any easier. Understand each other better one day, but not today. The two men said as they stood there in silence. The years of friendship and the weight of their shared past dangling between them like a thin thread that could break at any time. The moment that had once been a brotherhood was now shattered by secrets, betrayal, and the aftermath of one viral video. And Jim Jones turned his back on Camron, his heart heavy with unresolved emotions. Knowing that this moment would haunt him for a long time, Jim did not know what lay ahead for him and Camron. But he was certain that their relationship would never be the same again. Jim left with the feeling that the worst was yet to come because the public was still waiting for the full story to unfold. The video, the rumors, the accusations, everything was still out there. And it was only a matter of time before the media turned their attention. Everyone was watching, waiting for the next chapter in this explosive feud. And the drama between Camron and Jim Jones had just reached a breaking point. Wow, what a roller coaster of emotions. The friendship between James and Camron has been ripped apart, and it's obvious that this feud is far from over. But what do you think? Jim wasn't sure how much more he could take, but he knew that whatever happened, the damage would be irreparable. Camron, on the other hand, was left standing, contemplating by himself. If you're still on the edge of your seat wondering what would happen next, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. We want to hear your thoughts on this shocking situation, so please share them with us. We have more exciting stories coming up, and you won't want to miss a single one. Click the bell icon to be notified whenever we drop new videos that break the biggest celebrity news and drama.